All right. So we are live. We'll wait for the YouTube lag to come in here. You always hit live and it takes like 30 seconds for
Oh yeah, I know all
it to be
about that.
broadcasted. You know the film. All right, guys, we got uh coming off of a rough week for the Jaguars. I brought in my buddy Jason from Jags United on here. What is going on, my man?
So you're not much, dude. Just trying to get through the week, just like the rest of the Jags fans.
Yeah, that's all we really can do. But Jaguars obviously, it seems like they're going in the wrong direction, man. I mean, we had us, they're kind of driving us through a little bit of loop. I think it needs to be reversed because we start off, we kind of handle we beat the Colts, who we're not supposed to beat. And then we go out there and then play a tight game with the Titans, and then we go out there and lay a stinker up against the Dolphins. I wish it was reverse order, but this is just how it was.
I would say a stinker is like the nicest way to put what happened on Thursday night. It really is. I've been that's I was embarrassed, and I was more embarrassed to the fact that I thought for a second that this team could like contend. But after Thursday night, it might have been the team we all thought it was going to be week one.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing because man, I think before the season we all had our expectations so low, and then they go out there and they beat the Colts, and it's like, okay, was that a fluke? We always play good against the Colts. And then the next week, man, we play a good game against the Titans, and it was like the most optimistic loss ever. And then we're like, all right, we got Miami. Like, with how we played, we should be able to handle them. And then we go out there and just lay a complete turd. And honestly, like, I think the biggest disappointment about the Dolphins game, one reason why I'm so low is honestly, like, that game made me feel like Gardner Minshew is not the answer, unfortunately. And I guess we'll just kind of start with him. Like, the reason why is because there were some things that Gardner Minshew had to work on last year, and some of those things were like pocket presence, some of those things were fumbling, and some of those things were also maybe even like arm strength. But man, like, if you take away DJ Chark and if you limit the intermediate throws, I mean, he just looked completely flustered in there. Like, what were some of your thoughts on Gardner?
I like the way he plays, and I like the energy that he has, and I like his arm in a lot of situations. But when you back the scope up and look at like what he is, I mean, he grades out like bottom of the league. I mean, PFF has him graded out 26th best quarterback through 3 weeks, which I know is a small sample size, and I know PFF has a reputation of misevaluating players, but the guy like seems to be heavily depend on DJ Chark. Like, anytime DJ Chark's doing well, Gardner Minshew's doing well. Anytime DJ Chark's not doing well, Gardner Minshew's not doing well. So their paths kind of correlate, which kind of make me feel like that it's more DJ Chark than it is Gardner Minshew. And I want to love Gardner Minshew. I mean, he's everything I want in a quarterback. But at the end of the day, I keep coming back to the point where, like, man, if I have to pick between Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew, like, Trevor Lawrence is head and shoulders a better quarterback. So is my love for Gardner Minshew enough for me to root for some wins, or am I just going to drink the actual Kool-Aid this team's giving us indirectly? And it's like, all right, we're planning for 2021 to have a new quarterback, a new coach, new GM. And I think I'm on board with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I remember easily my worst take on this channel was that, I was like a believer in Blake Bortles. And, a lot of it was just because I was like, when Blake Bortles got drafted, I was like 22. I think I was 20 years old. I was a sophomore at UCF, and I was a huge fan. And then really 2012 is when I really started following like every move of the Jaguars. That's when I moved out to Orlando, and I was no longer a big UF fan because I went to UCF, and then I really just started following the team, and I was looking at how it's built, and I just had so much belief in in Blake Bortles, where I almost had a blind belief in him, and I just wanted him to turn out to be the answer. And then he just wasn't. And then I look at it right now and I say, look, Gardner Minshew is a lot better than Blake Bortles. I mean, Gardner Minshew, if he was on our 2017 team, I mean, there's a very good chance that we go to the Super Bowl. But the thing is, man, like, I look out there and I watch like last night I was watching the Chiefs game, and I remember Patrick Mahomes had this one touchdown throw where it was like he was rolling out and he threw off his back foot and just threw an absolute missile. I think it was to like Tyreek Hill. And, that's the kind of thing that we need, because because we can say, oh, Gardner Minshew doesn't have an O-line, Gardner Minshew, he's missing his best receiver. But the thing is, like, in the NFL, like, your roster is going to go up and down. And then, but you're going to have quarterbacks like Russell Wilson. Ever since his first Super Bowl with the Legion of Boom, that roster is pretty much completely turned over. But Russell Wilson has remained the same, and that team, is back in the playoffs every single year. They're competing, and it's because they have an elite quarterback that can make turn a bad team into a pretty good team. Because he's had some horrible offensive lines there, and the defense right now isn't good. But look, they're like competing, but. I no longer want somebody that is just good enough to get a job, because obviously Gardner Minshew can win you some games. With a perfect roster, Gardner Minshew, he could very well lead you into a Super Bowl. But the thing is, with how quickly in the NFL rosters turn over, and we see Minshew, all he is missing DJ Chark. And of course, Cam Robinson got ejected, and then, Brandon Linder at center, that hurt too. But man, it just looked like I felt bad for him, man. He looked helpless out there, and it just seemed like the game could not end any sooner for Gardner Minshew that game.
Yeah, it's a guy that we all want to root for, and we all like, and we want him to be successful. And if we just all accept the fact that he is a really good quarterback, I think we'll be okay. But watching Patrick Mahomes last night, you realize that there's a difference between, like you said, really good quarterbacks that are just good enough to win and elite quarterbacks. And if you want to be in contention for the Super Bowl every year, which is our goal, you have to have an elite quarterback. And Gardner Minshew is really, really good, but he's not elite. And it's no knock against him. But I hate to keep bringing him up, because people tell me all the time they're sick of hearing of him. Trevor Lawrence is an elite quarterback. And to get Trevor Lawrence, you're going to have to out-lose the Jets, which I don't think we can do. But maybe there's a way to package some trade value together to move up. But at the end of the day, you have to have an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson in contention every year. You have to have an elite quarterback. You can make a run with a decent quarterback and a good defense, but to sustain success, you have to have an elite quarterback. So I think we're on the same page here, where it's we want Minshew to be good, but at the end of the day, you can't piddle-paddle around with a really good quarterback when there's an elite quarterback available.
Yeah, and the tough thing is, man, I don't think we're going to be able to get Trevor Lawrence, because, as bad as the Jaguars are right now, especially the pass rush right now, but, man, there are some really, really bad teams in the NFL right now. The Jets, awful. They are just showing nothing. What's some positives? Their left tackle, Mekhi Becton. Other than that, outside of him, there's nothing on that team. And then the Giants have been horrible too. And if the season ended today, the Jaguars don't even have a top 10 pick. So there's just some god awful teams out there. The whole NFC East is garbage. I don't see the Jaguars being able to get Trevor Lawrence. But it is a quarterback rich class. There's Justin Fields, there's Trey Lance, there's also even Kyle Trask might be moving up. He had a really good game the other day, and he looks like he could be a potential NFL quarterback. But it's tough. But at this point, Gardner Minshew, he still has 13 games to prove that he is the guy. And then, at the end of the day, he might be able to be a really good bridge quarterback, because you could bring in a guy next year. Then the Jaguars next year could very well compete. This really good rookie class is going into their second year. So that's going to be really good. And also you're going to have a whole nother rookie class. You're going to have a lot of money to spend. So, the Jaguars could compete next year. Then, Gardner Minshew, could lead this team next year and be a good bridge guy. But at the end of the day, I love Gardner Minshew, and it'd be so good for him to work out. But he's sketchy back there, man. His pocket presence scares me, and his weak arm scares me at the end of the day.
Okay, and I want to ask you, in your heart of hearts, do you think Gardner Minshew's the guy? Do you think he will be the guy that is good enough to lead this team to success.
No, I mean that's why I was talking about getting a quarterback, just because. I mean, one thing I learned about Gardner Minshew this year is that he's going to be on the NFL for a long time.
Yes,
he is,
yes.
Because some of the things that he does well. I mean, he's very smart, obviously, and another thing is like he's got excellent mechanics. I mean, really good footwork. Really good. He's got a really good quick release, and like I said, he's a smart guy. I mean, he's going to be a coach one day. And, he's also very accurate. Accurate is a good thing. He can go in there and wash up duty. And, when a team isn't scouting for him, he's going to be able to go in there and, hit passes all the time. And, I know this comparison has been drawn a lot. I've been seeing it kind of everywhere. But I think he's going to be a Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's going to be moving around the NFL a lot. He's going to come in and do well in like more of a backup role. And he's going to make a lot of money in the NFL, and he might even be a Fitzpatrick where he winds up falling into a big contract, kind of like he did over, when he was for Buffalo. Buffalo kind of handed him over a big contract, but you know what I mean? When you look at successful organizations, I think of two organizations. The Chiefs, they had Alex Smith. If the Jaguars had Alex Smith, they would be so happy. They would not have moved on from him. But the Chiefs move up in the first round. They give up a couple first-round picks to go get Patrick Mahomes with Alex Smith, who might be the second best quarterback the Jaguars franchise history if he was on the roster. And also you look at the Ravens. They had Joe Flacco, Super Bowl MVP, but he just wasn't cutting it. And then they go and they draft Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, I just don't want to get put in a situation like the Bengals were for so many years before they slipped and fell into Joe Burrow, where you are, just playing along with a quarterback. They are just good enough. And then, just good enough with them when they had Jay Gruden and Andy Dalton that won them no playoff games. So the quarterback position, we need to hit on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried. We've tried Gabbert, Bortles, Leftwich. The list goes on and on. We've tried. And, I mean, not to harp on it, but Trevor Lawrence just seems like the guy that's going to be good for a long time. So hopefully it works out. I can see the Jets winning a couple games, getting some momentum late. Adam Gase is the butt of a lot of jokes, but I mean, he's a head coach for a reason. He's been around for a while. The dude knows his way around an offense compared to the average Joe. So he could stumble his way into a couple wins. If the Jags don't pick up any momentum against the Bengals, I mean, they could be looking at a pretty bad season, which is okay with me because there's a lot of bright spots. I mean, James Robinson, I want to get your opinion on James Robinson because, I mean, I know, obviously he's doing things that no undrafted rookie has ever done, and he looks good through the first 3 weeks. But do you expect James Robinson to sustain this success throughout this year and his career?
I mean, I really like James Robinson. He's got a lot of qualities that I like in a running back. I like shorter running backs because it gives them a lower center of gravity, and it enables them to break tackles much easier, as opposed when you look at Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette runs with a really high pad level, meaning that he's, standing straight up for those, watching, and then he's just able to get tripped up easier. James Robinson has a really good jump cut. He's really good at cutting. And I mean, we've seen him hurdle guys. So I'm so comfortable with him being our running back. And then, after his 4 years is up, go try to get, another undrafted guy or a 5th, 6th, 7th rounder, because, I think James Robinson, it's almost him doing this is almost hurting running backs, because it's going to kind of show that, look, the Panthers, they don't have to go, pay a lot of money to Christian McCaffrey. They're going to show that you really don't have to invest first-round picks in running backs. And, I think he's going to be able to sustain the success. I don't know. What do you think about him?
I like him. I mean, he's very smooth. I mean, I bring this up a lot. The local radio had his college coach on, and they asked him about his playing style. And he said that he's not a foot speed guy, and he's more smooth runner. And when I first heard that, I was like, well, that's not going to translate to the NFL because this is the NFL, not Illinois State. But then you watch him play and you see exactly what the coach was talking about. It's smooth. It's kind of Fred Taylor-esque, makes moves at the right time, methodically. And I mean, I think he only had 40 or 50 yards of rushing, but he added another 70 in the passing game because Minshew kept checking it down to him. which Minshew's a check down guy. I mean, Fournette piled up the yards on check downs from Minshew. But, I mean, Robinson can do it. And I like Robinson. And I just imagine if you paired him with what we thought Chris Thompson would be. Like, what is up with Chris Thompson? Is he alive? Is he we had really high expectations for Chris Thompson, especially coming in Jay Gruden's offense. We thought he'd be the third down back getting, at least 40 yards a game all purpose somehow. But he's been kind of MIA. So I think James Robinson having to do it on his own. I mean, I guess Chenault's picked up a little bit of the running back load, but I mean, I'm excited for him, but I've seen running backs pop off for a couple weeks in a row. So I'm just going to be cautiously optimistic.
I mean, the thing I like about Robinson is like you see him in the backfield, and then he gets a handoff, and it's like you lose him. You're like, okay, where's he at? And he pops out of the the middle of the field, and it reminds me a lot of like Maurice Jones-Drew. Like I remember Maurice Jones-Drew would do the same thing. I remember the funniest thing Maurice Jones-Drew did one time was like it was against the Patriots. I think he was running to the left, and he ran and he fell down off the back of a offensive lineman, and he got up and ran for a touchdown.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just love because I remember with Fournette, man. Fournette, like maybe I like James Robinson so much because I think Leonard Fournette just drove me nuts as a running back. I mean, people on my channel gave me a lot of crap because I just didn't think Fournette was that good, man. I mean, he was obviously he could carry a load and he put up a lot of yards, but man, like it'd be like you're getting out of your chair as he's about to make a big run, and then someone grabs his foot and he falls down. It's like. And then now when you look at like James Robinson, I mean, he's shifty, like, he's able to make guys miss. He's got a little bit of power. Obviously he's like 5'9", and he was able to hurdle somebody. I mean, that's been, especially last game, that James Robinson was the only bright spot in that Thursday night football game against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I want to get your opinion on something. And this is like something that's baffled me as a Jags fan. It's like the Jags defense is obviously like Swiss cheese, like can't stop anything at all. And then you look at how the Jaguars only invested in two players. They've invested in Miles Jack and Joe Schobert. Outside of that, they're all undrafted rookies, draft picks, and that's pretty much it. Or guys that are like serviceable journeymen. Like how can you justify your team trying to win when you've only invested in two positions on the defense? So I guess what I want to hear from someone like you is like, were they being genuine when they said they weren't tanking?
Well, one thing about it is like, everyone, they kind of look at, because AJ Boye, that trade, I didn't mind it because, he was kind of going down. He had a big cap number. And then obviously Foles was big. But then you look at Calais Campbell, they traded him away. But the thing is, it's not like they didn't try to replace him. I mean, they were trying to get. All right, I think I lost Jason. You guys see me here? Hey, can you guys still hear me? All right, cool. But yeah, what he was asking was, here, let's get Jason back in here. All right, you're back.
You know how it is, the internet.
I was just worried I went out because my internet always goes out during these things. But yeah, you're asking about the, I'm talking about kind of Calais Campbell, but, I almost feel like, Calais Campbell, he was getting older, and they, as he was getting older, he wasn't able to play as many snaps as he was in the past. And I see Engraven out here. He's a Ravens YouTuber. So, he's loving up on our Calais Campbell, but, they go out and they sign, Rodney Gunter, and, they signed, I don't know if it was Aaron Lynch. I mean, we had so many just guys drop out and opt out. They got Al Woods, just all these guys, Laurenti McCurry, all these guys that were supposed to be on our D line, but are no longer there. And then, we're kind of suffering it right now. But I mean, with the way the roster is, there's no way they actually thought they're going to win this year. I mean, you can't come out there and say that you're tanking. You know what I mean? But you're rebuilding. Yeah. I mean, you're rebuilding. I don't think they're tanking. I just think they know that they're rebuilding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just that's the thing that made me the most mad was just like the GM and the coach coming out saying that they were trying and they just more like it's like we all saw the writing on the wall that like we're building for 2021. But man, I mean, they really dragged us through the mud with their speech this last year, and I wanted to believe that that they were better than we thought. In week 1, they really had me tied up. But man, this defense is so bad, and you spent 2 draft picks on this defense. I was really hopeful for 2021 being the year this defense can turn it around. But do you see this team being that much better next year?
I mean, the only way to do it, you have to fix the pass rush. I don't care if you have the Legion of Boom in the backfield. If you're not getting any pressure on a quarterback, you're not going to do anything. And then literally you look, Phillip Rivers, I mean, lucky for us, he threw a couple of just stupid interceptions that I still don't know who he was throwing to. And that led to 10 points. Tannehill had all day to throw, and he was running the ball on us. Fitzpatrick, I mean, he was doing this thing. And then we got Joe Burrow coming up. You know how bad Joe Burrow wants his first victory? If we're not able to put pressure on these guys, we're not going to do anything. You know what I mean? And then also our secondary is so young. So, I mean, really next year, I mean, Chase on, I'm not putting anything on him because, this is his first year being a defensive end. It's not only his first year being in the NFL, first year being a defensive end. I have a lot of, I have really high regards for him, but they've got to. I don't want to go out and spend a lot of money in free agency, but I would like to, get somebody, whether it's an interior defensive lineman or a defensive end. I don't know who's hitting the market next year. I haven't really been paying too much attention to that, but make some investment in that spot. And then, I wouldn't mind, even drafting some in the first 2 rounds, is because, you always need your, defensive linemen. I mean, we don't have much. I mean, Taven Bryan is really such a tease because the guy is just so powerful. He splits, he takes on double teams, he splits them, he gets in the backfield, but he just doesn't know what to do from there, man. He goes in the back and his back is this way, the ball's going that way. I mean, It sucks because he is so powerful, and I want him to be good, but he's just got horrible awareness. He's just so powerful. He doesn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean?
I hope so. It just, man, I was really hoping that 2021 would be our window, but gosh, it doesn't seem like we have very much depth underneath our lack of talent. Like, our defensive line is a glaring concern. Like, Josh Allen had a lot of one-on-ones Thursday night, a lot, and he was unable to win. He had one-on-ones. I mean, there was a lineman for the Dolphins that is from Jacksonville and played at Raines High School, and just like destroyed Josh Allen. And like, this lineman like has no notoriety at all. It's just a random guy on the offensive line. And Josh Allen is a guy we're all like, he's going to be our savior. And he couldn't beat him in one-on-ones. And so teams don't fear our pass rush with 4. So to get any pressure, we have to send more than 4, which opens up the quick game and the screen game. And you're right. I mean, it all starts on the D-line. And we've seen coach after coach come into Jacksonville and say we have to invest in the trenches, and we try to do it. But I fear we missed on Taven Bryan. Josh Allen's good, but he's not enough by himself. And Clavon Chazon might be 2 or 3 years out from being effective. So this team, unless they can figure out a way to, like you said, bring in a free agent who can really get after the passer and win those one-on-ones, we might have some issues, because this back 7, the linebackers and the corners, they are young and they are inexperienced, and they're going to need some help. And if we learned anything from 2017, it's an effective pass rush helps the entire defense. So they got to figure something out. I feel very insecure about this team after Thursday night. That was they didn't show me anything last night. I'm concerned, me personally.
Yeah, I mean, only Robinson showed you something, and really like that needs to be, besides, figuring out about the quarterback situation, which we already talked about, I feel like, for like 15 minutes. We got to fix the D-line. We got to make sure next year we can bring some heat to the quarterback, because I am just, it sucks because when you're not bringing heat to the quarterback, they're going to convert every single third down. Like, Fitzpatrick, he had a good game the other day and everything, but like, what quarterback wouldn't have had a good game? Bortles could have been back there and he would have ripped off 12 straight completions. I mean, like, if you're just sitting there having no pressure on a quarterback, and then, because And I really like Flores, man. He's a good defensive coach. I really like the kind of game that he called against the Jaguars, because he was kind of Todd Wash needs to take some note, man, because he was having a bunch of guys at the line of scrimmage looking like they were gonna blitz 6 or 7, but then they kind of drop back. They trust their guys in man-to-man coverage, and then a lot of times they were rushing like 3 or 4 guys, and then with the Jaguars, like we don't know how to blitz, man. Like, and Todd Wash has been calling more and more blitzes, but the thing is, he's not creative with it. It's like, okay, let's blitz this play. All right, Joe Sherbert's going to get up on the line of scrimmage. And then it's like, dude, like, all they're doing is, they're going to say, oh, they're going to point and they're going to account for you. And then it doesn't do anything. Like, do something where a linebacker is, covering up the tight end. And then when the ball snapped, go jump it. You know what I mean? Like, there's this, it's just, and one play, like, he called a kind of delayed blitz from Miles Jack, but Miles Jack was like 7-8 yards off the ball, and then he could have went there on a full-on sprint and he wouldn't have reached Fitzpatrick. So it's like, dude, like, draw it up better. I mean, and I know all the fans, I got Mr. Roders in here saying, how long has Todd Wash been with the team? I mean, he's been with the team since 2013 when Gus Bradley got here. He was a defensive line coach, got promoted to, DC, with Gus Bradley, head coach, and he stayed along as, he's just been here, man, just bringing something new. And then, I don't want to go into it, the whole coaching thing, because I would have just fired Dave Caldwell, Doug Marrone, and then you literally could have had the most attractive job in the NFL, because with the Jaguars, I mean, if they hire a GM, Shad Khan could say, look, you can get your pick of head coach. You got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, most cap next year, and I'm gonna let you hang around until you have 7 double-digit losing seasons, and I'll kick you out of here. Like, literally, how is this not the most attractive job, like, in the NFL right now? But I don't know. Like, at the very least, Todd Wash needs to go next year.
I fear that it's kind of like a Washington situation where they can attract good coaches, and it's just the ownership prevents them from being good. And it's hard to explain why that happens, because it seems like it'd be pretty cut and dry where you see good things happen and you continue them. But it happens. I mean, it happened in Oakland with the Raiders. It happens, like I said, in Washington. Sometimes an owner really prevents teams from being good. And I'm not pinning that on Shad Khan, but I think this job is still attractive next year. And I think they do clean house and bring in a new guy. I mean, this is pipe dream material, but I mean, if you can bring in Trevor Lawrence and Dabo Swinney at the same time, like, there's rumors that if Dabo's going to make the jump, he's going to do it with Trevor Lawrence together. I mean, that's pipe dream, pie in the sky, best case scenario for everybody. Things seldomly work out that way, but man, that's a much better situation than what we have now. I mean, I think I'm like every Jag fan where it makes no sense why these people are still making decisions at any job. If you're bad for as long as Caldwell's been bad, what is going on his like 8th year, you get fired. You get fired after 1 or 2 bad years. In the NFL, you get fired after 2 or 3 bad years, and somehow this front office is still intact. It makes no sense. I don't know what's going on, but I guess we're just gluttons for punishment because we're Jags fans, maybe.
But in what way? Because I feel like Shad Khan, like I feel like he does what it takes to win, because he'll give he's let Dave Caldwell spend a lot of money. I think his main downfall is that 2 main downfalls. One is that he doesn't know when to fire people, and then and he knows that he's not a good football guy. I mean, he brought literally Tom Coughlin in to basically be the football owner. You know what I mean? He brought him in to basically serve as what the owner should be on the football side. But then, I think what ultimately gave like Dave or Tom Coughlin, what pretty much painted his grave was when all the Jalen Ramsey stuff went down, he had to fly to Jacksonville to kind of sort it all out. And I think he said, look, like, I literally brought Tom Coughlin here, so I didn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to talk to these players. I shouldn't have to, be figuring things out or whatever. And then, like, literally, he came in there and had to do that. And then also, like, also he just doesn't know how to fire people. So real quick shout out to Predator. He just joined the Pride of UCF Jaguar level. So big shout out to him. You guys can become members of the channel for as low as $3 a month for Jaguars or for member only content. And also, I put Jason's links down below, man. Definitely subscribe to him on YouTube. He goes live at least every Monday night, and he might throw in a little bonus stream for you guys when you're not expecting it.
Me and my buddies will have a good time one night, and we'll be like, you know what, let's do a live show. And those are actually the golden ones. Those are the ones that you want to catch, are the random midweek shows, because there's less of a filter on those shows.
Yeah, you put the kids to bed, man. Listen to them. Listen to them unfiltered. One big thing we have, like one big advantage that we have, was that we can say whatever you want. We can say shit. We can say fuck. It doesn't matter. We can say all this stuff, and we're not going to get lose sponsors. We're not going to have our commercials pulled off of our 1010XL feed or anything.
Can I be honest with you? The reason why I started doing this, I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, which is, I mean, you've been doing it longer, but it blows my mind that I'm able to do this and people listen to the podcast and our YouTube live shows. But the reason why I got into this was because I was so infuriated by local radio. Every time I would turn it on, it would be commercials. Every single time I'd turn on the radio station in my truck, commercial every single time. I wanted to punch something, because I was like, is there no content available when I want it? And then you find out people like you, people like me, there's content out there. You just got to subscribe so you get the notifications and things like that. And I'm just glad to be a part of something that incorporates the fans. I know you're big on incorporating fans, which is why I think you've had the popularity you had, and the popularity that we've had is because there's such a niche for fans being involved in the Jags team and then their shows and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I had the 1010XL app, and every once in a while, usually on Mondays, I try to play it just because, I just kind of like to hear some Jags talk. But man, you just turn it on, and it's, you're hearing advanced disposal commercials.
Exactly.
This is commercial after commercial, and it's oh my God. And then some of the stuff is just so dry. I remember, when I first started playing Jaguars Today, I just loved Jaguars Today because it was 10 to 12, just all this Jaguar talk. But man, they've had the same Mike Dempsey and Tony Smith on there for almost 10 years. And those guys, I don't even think they watch the film. They just bring in guys. They bring in Jeff Logman to tell them what happened in the game. I don't it's just boring. And I don't know, just some of the radio stuff. I love the drill. I love Jeff Prosser and Dan Hicken. I think they're funny and stuff. And then I like the Monday night show with Pete Prisco and Tony Baselli. But other than that, it's just it can drive me nuts.
The content is, and I hate to say this because I love the Jags and I've soaked in all the content. The content that the Jags put out and the official content of the Jags, frankly, is dog shit. It sucks. And it's dang.
Why is Sexton still out there? Why is Sexton literally was on Jaguars.com and said that the NFL made a mistake by awarding the Jacksonville an NFL franchise. He said that on the team website, and he's still how does he still have a job? First of all, he got demoted from, being the voice of the Jaguars, and it's kind of hanging around. What does he do? Why is he still there?
I mean, I don't want to bash them too hard, because if they offered me a job, I would take it in a second. But at the same time,
yeah, exactly.
The reason why that I'm in this is, I mean, if I can be quite frank, and this might cost me my job in the future, but there's an entire show on 1010XL that's all females talking about sports, and they frequently get off topic and talk about movies and movie stars. And I'm like, this is our local sports radio station with a bunch of women talking about movie stars. What am I doing right now? And so here we are doing our own show.
Yeah, I think that show, because it's Helmets and Heels, I don't think that was, I think that's the point. I think they want to get around and try to bring women there. But yeah, it's just, and it was on a primetime slot, 7 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. And they get off topic a lot. And then I don't want to hear about, Mike Dempsey tell us about his 12-year-old son and what movie they watched this weekend. You know what I mean? It's just oh my God. And it's just so it just drives me nuts. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I love doing YouTube. It's, as someone being in Orlando, I don't have a lot of, and that's one reason why I started the channel. I don't have a lot of people that talk about Jaguars too. And, you know, I feel like I had like so much Jaguar knowledge, just like not able to get out there. And I was like, oh, this is a cool way to do it. And it kind of provides not only me some entertainment, but it provides, you know, I got 53 people in here watching. So it gives some of the fans some entertainment. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's really a lot of fun to do.
It's the opposite here in Jacksonville. When people hear that I have a Jags YouTube channel, they try to talk to me about the Jags, and there are people that like casually follow them, and it's the worst. It's worse. It's worse than not having anyone to talk to at all.
Yeah,
it's people that just are completely uninformed. That's the good thing about is these channels is like I'll be sitting here and I can't remember the name of somebody, and like 15 people will like you're trying to think of this person, and like 15 people will like comment the person I'm trying to think of, and I'm like, yes, that's why I do this, because you guys know more about the Jags than I do. We're all sitting here together, but
dude, yeah, it drives me nuts. Like, you know, I got a new job a couple months ago, and I'm kind of, you know, I must have been wearing a Jag shirt or something like that, but he's like, oh, you're a Jags fan? I'm like, yeah, man, you know. He's like, oh, yeah, like, you know, I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm like, oh, cool, man. Like, I'm like, you excited about 2? And he's like, oh, yeah, you know, should be good. And I'm like, he's like, so you guys, you have Foles, right? And I'm like, no, Foles got traded. And then I'm like, and then, you know, you ask them questions, then you figure out like, dude, I know more about your favorite team than you know about your favorite team. It's like, dude, then like literally I go out in public and I become like a teacher. Like people see me wearing Jaguar stuff. I remember I was at Target and some lady's like, I don't know why they got rid of Tom Coughlin. I'm like,
well, he was horrible. So
yeah, I mean,
the NFLPA literally said don't sign in Jacksonville. That was a red flag.
Yeah, then I'm like, dude, do I really need to like? And I just said to her, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, because I didn't. What am I supposed to do? Sit there and like, well, you know, like explain the NFLPA put out a statement, and then there was, you know, I'm not. Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Tom Coughlin's awesome. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Tom Coughlin. Yeah,
that's the thing about Tom Coughlin though, and this is the caveat about Tom Coughlin. And people in our chat and people that listen will say the same thing, is like, you almost can't blame Shad Khan for that move, because everybody wanted Tom Coughlin. Like the success he had in New York, like we kind of saw that as him being able to do that in Jacksonville, and everybody was on board with the Tom Coughlin move. Like there was probably red flags in the interview and in the background checks and all that. That was, if you or me were the owners, we'd be like, it's not going to work out. But as casual observers that don't have privy to that information, we were all kind of pumped about Tom Coughlin. We didn't know that he was going to come in here and give us the worst reputation of all time. Have you ever heard? I've been following football my entire life. Have you ever heard of the NFLPA coming out and saying, don't sign with the team because they're so poorly run? It blew my mind. I was like, that's the kind of stuff you hear about, and you're like, damn, I hope that's not my team. And it's like, oh, that was my team. That happened too.
It's funny. Do you ever send out like an angry tweet and then you like delete it like 15 minutes later? That almost felt like the NFL. It almost seemed like they like tweeted something out, and it's like, maybe we shouldn't have said that. We were just like a little heated. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, that's one thing like that I definitely don't blame, you know, the Jaguars for doing, was bringing him in. But the thing is, like, one thing that people always say is, I always bring up the whole like, you know, Leonard Fournette over Patrick Mahomes thing, and people go, oh, well, no one knew Patrick Mahomes was going to be what he was going to be. It's like, dude, Andy Reid and those guys knew exactly what he was going to be. So, and this is their job, is to go out and find talent like this. Like, I don't give, you know, it's different if you let, you know, quarterback go, you know, like people miss on Gardner Minshew, you know, that's different. You know, he's a 6th-round pick, you know, obviously he's performed above that and everything. But, you know, for a guy that goes in the 1st round, like, I don't like when they go, oh, well, no one knew that he was going to be what he's going to be. Dude, a really good organization knew what he was going to be and like missed out on that. So like, I don't even, you know, I don't want to hear something like that. But yeah, I mean, the Jaguars, I don't even want to, it's tough to go through the whole like history of what kind of this team has done.
You see the same thing with Cam Newton, Alan Lazard. I mean, you see all these guys like they were not signed or they were cut, and we all took it as like, well, they're professionals, so they know what they're looking for. And then they go and they ball out. How many of us wanted to re-sign Mercedes Lewis? We're all like, well, we should probably re-sign this guy. Like he's pretty good, he's pretty inexpensive, and he does what he does his job really well. And it's like, oh, well, then they know more than us, so we'll let them release them. Then they go and they pop off at other teams. And you're like how many of us wanted Lamar Jackson? Like we did a live show that draft, and we were like, how is Lamar Jackson still available? Like, there's no way. Like all the NFL GMs were trying to outsmart the average fan, and they all look like fools when everyone was like, yeah, Lamar Jackson's really good, and now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Patrick Mahomes, I'll give you Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Andy Reid's the dude. He moved up. He knew what he wanted. And even when he moved up for him, people were like, okay, like, I trust Andy Reid, but I don't see that in his game. Lamar Jackson showed you his game ahead of time in the ACC. I just sometimes I think these scouts and these GMs, they overthink things, and they try to outsmart the common folk. And we're all sit here in retrospect like, why did you make that decision again? And I don't know. It just frustrates me as someone who watches every single game and reads every piece of media that comes out on these players, that I can evaluate these players better than they can.
Yeah, and Jaguars have a history of like also chasing off veterans that have more years left. I mean, Darryl Smith was chased out, before he needed to be gone. He had several productive years after. We did the same thing with Rashean Mathis. He went over to the Lions and had several productive years. And then, like you said, Mercedes Lewis, I mean, we got rid of him and we had nobody to replace him. You know what I mean? I don't know what, like, he's not an expensive guy. Like, it's not like you let, like Yannick Ngakoue, go off and he's going to sign a big deal or anything. I mean, like, Mercedes seemed like he wanted to be back, and the Jaguars just, and then the Jaguars I'm surprised he even wanted to come back, because, I mean, they basically disrespected him by paying Julius Thomas, all that money, for him just to be playing with Peyton Manning. I mean, that dude's got to give Peyton Manning some royalty money, right? From like just literally the contract that Peyton Manning gave him, basically, from just like throwing balls right in the breadbasket to him. But yeah, it's I mean, this unfortunately, like, I don't know. This team drives me nuts.
What are you expecting next week? Like, realistically, like Cincinnati, they tied their game last week. Like, what are you realistically expecting next week?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Jaguars may have a chance to win, but I just don't, with no pass rush, I don't feel confident in winning any game. You know what I mean? Like, Joe Burrow has played really good, and he's going to want this game so bad. And I don't know how are we gonna stop him? How are we gonna get pressure on him? You know what I mean?
I think he throws for 500 yards with 5 touchdowns. Honestly,
like I don't want to sit here and be super negative on here, but like, how are we gonna stop him?
The dude like threw 64 times last week. Like, yeah, he's gonna throw for 505 touchdowns, because CJ Henderson's going to probably have a lot of good plays, but when you throw 64 times, there's going to be, unless you can get pressure, then you're going to get destroyed. And we cannot get pressure somehow. We don't blitz ever. So, yeah, I don't expect anything good. And I hate to be a pessimist. I'm never that guy. I'm more of the typical negative Jaguar fan this year than I've ever been in my entire life. I'm always the sunshine and rainbows pumper. But this year, like, the writing's literally on the wall. Like, they're not trying to win. They're not paying anybody. They're accumulating draft picks that are trying to get a quarterback next year, and they're obviously going to get new coach and all that next year, new GM. So no expectations from me.
But are they going to get a new GM, a new coach next year?
If they win one game and they go 1-15, I guarantee you they have a new coach and a new GM next year. And I don't see them beating anybody, because the Bengals.
Because what? Because do you think? Because Dave Caldwell's making all these moves, and like, do you think he's making all these moves to give it to the next GM? Like, I think he feels some kind of job security. Unfortunately,
if it's between making moves and being unemployed, I think he makes moves. And at this point, he's employed, but I think he will be unemployed after this year. And because Khan is like, okay, I'm not going to bring in a coach this year, and I'm not going to bring in a GM this year with a lame duck quarterback. I think he's going to bring him in next year, let them pick their quarterback, let them pick their coach. You got another first round pick. You want to draft a tackle? You want to draft a receiver? go ham, new GM, and I think next year is a really good situation for a lot of coaches.
Yeah, then you basically, I mean, the Vikings second round picks looking better and better, man. Like they could have 3 picks in the top 40.
That's true. I mean, they can do a lot of damage with their picks next year, and I think that was their plan. And I think the way the picks are shaking out is best case scenario. And I think we see a new coach. It could be Gruden. It could be any of these guys. Look, I mean, there's a lot of candidates that may be coming out. I mean, how long does Josh McDaniels wait around in New England? There's a lot of coordinators that are hot commodities. College coaches, Dabo Swinney. I mean, does Lincoln Riley make the move next year? I mean, after seeing how what's his name from Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury did. So, I mean, could be a lot of options next year, and we could be a totally different team next year.
Now, one thing I do want to talk about, man, is one thing that I noticed the other night with our offense. I want to stay on the offensive side. Is like I feel like with our wide receivers, like we have DJ Chark, who's a good like deep ball threat. He's going to win your 50-50 balls, and I feel like Laviska Shenault's going to be a really good player, man. He's going to be able to catch the ball in traffic. He's going to be your good intermediate guy, get some yards after contact, yards after the catch and whatnot. But we're missing that other guy. Like I think this Jaguar offense, man, like we need to go out there and get a guy like Stephon Diggs or something, a guy of that type, or like a Jamar Chase, like somebody that is just a speedster, can run really good routes, take the top off of our defense, and then boom, like, I think our wide receiver room, man, if we can add somebody like that, it could be pretty good.
Think about the Texans for a second, okay? Like, people were so quick to be like, the Texans suck for trading DeAndre Hopkins. And you may have a valid point there because DeAndre Hopkins is really good. But look who they replaced that receiving core with. They have Will Fuller, Randall Cobb, and Brandon Cooks. Those are like 3 legit number 1 wide receivers. And like they're like low-key AFC South Texans receivers. The Jags have nothing near that. They have Keelan Cole and DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. I mean, that pales in comparison to what the Texans are rolling out there. I think the Colts are a little bit behind. The Texans have spent money on tight ends and slot receivers, and they've drafted high Corey Davis. They've drafted guys like early in the first round. We're the only team that seems to not think that receivers are a priority. And even them going after Tyler Eifert was the first time they've actually gone after a good tight end in a decade. So it seems like if the Jags were really trying to set up Gardner Minshew for success, they would give him a unit that was better than Chark and Keelan Cole and Laviska Shenault. Because you look at a team like the Texans, and they got 3 number 1s. And the Colts have the number 1 cap room going into next year, and they've invested top picks in theirs. Same with the Titans. It just seems like we're not trying to score.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, the receiver room is, I like some of the guys, but man, like, dude, it was so funny seeing D.D. Westbrook the other day, man. He looked skinny as hell. And like, dude, he looked like someone that put in his 2-week notice and is just sailing it in, man. Like, I was so worried. I thought he was I was sitting there thinking that, because he was on punt return. I thought he was going to catch the punt, turn around, and just throw the ball as far as he could. Like, he like did not look into it at all. It was crazy, man.
We've all been there. Like, I mean, I have. I'm sure you have, given your 2 weeks notice, and that was perfect, into a job, and you're just like checked out. You're like, bro, you can't tell me anything, bro. Like, I'm collecting my paycheck. I'm not putting in 1 ounce of effort into this team. The dude's a healthy scratch. That's all you need to know about D.D. Westbrook. Keelan Cole, though, has popped off. Colin Johnson had some good moments. Laviska Shenault obviously is doing it all. They're young and they're good, but they're not elite. And if you are trying to win, your receiver core is elite. And keeps bringing me back to the same point. The Jags aren't trying to win. It sucks to say, and no one wants to say it, and the team can't say it because they're on payroll, and 1010XL can't say it because they're the official station. But we can say it. The team's not trying to win. I mean, I put out the stat on Twitter during the Titans game. The Jags pay 5 people on their entire roster over $6 million a year. The Titans pay 12, more than double what we pay. When you're trying to win, you invest into your team and you invest into your roster. When you're tanking, you don't. And no one likes to use the word tanking, and no one is comfortable with it. But look at where we're spending money and look at what we're doing. We're tanking. It sucks to say. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It is what it is.
And it sucks because I'm almost like okay with, losing all the rest of our games and, hopefully getting like a number 1 overall pick. But man, like when you're there on Sundays watching these games, I mean, it is so you sit there and root for victory. And then when they like look bad, it's just like it's demoralizing, man. And we go on these shows and, just talk bad about everything. But, you almost wish you could just simulate the season
yes.
and then or just keep watching the NFL and just have the Jaguars sit out and say, okay, Jaguars are 1-15. They're locking up the number 1 pick. Then you can sit there and watch like the other games, but man, it's like it's hard, man. Like it's hard sitting there and watching like the Jaguars, lose. And I mean, hopefully just the offense looks good because that's always fun. But just the defense, man, it's just it's every game this year they've been scoring on their first possession, the very first possession, taking it down. And then like I don't know what's worse when they score on us real quick, or if they like what the Titans did, or if it's like the Dolphins where they just slowly move it down, convert their third downs, and and get the first and get the touchdown. So I don't know.
It's tough for people like us because we have to come on here and do shows every week about the team that we'd love to cover. But it's going to be worth it. We're going to be good in 2021, 2022. We're going to be good. And here's what you got to remember. And here's what all the people watching have to remember. Because I see in the chat's like going up and people watching, which is awesome and a testament to your channel. But when we're good in a year or two, there's going to be a billion podcasts and a billion YouTubers on here trying to cover the Jags. And all these fans are going to be like, these guys were there when we were in the grind of it. So that's why we're here. We're going to keep covering the team. And you know what? We'll be here. And we're hoping for the best. But if it's not, we're still going to cover it.
Hey, we got a fan of yours in the chat. He says, Jason, you're an idiot because we don't have elite receiving core, or we have a team full of guys on their rookie contracts. People's jobs are on the line. So I'll let you do your rebuttal.
Hey, honestly, an idiot is that's not bad. I've been called a lot of bad things, and I've been very critical of the receiving core. I mean, I was the guy that was saying T.D. Westbrook was washed when everyone was like trying to make him a god, and they come out and they don't even activate him week 1. So, yeah, I mean, I could be an idiot, and I probably am. But I hate to tell you, but this receiving core is DJ Chark is really good, but Keelan Cole would be like a 4 on every other team. Laviska Shenault is going to be good, but he still has to prove he can be healthy. He's played 3 games, and he has a history of not finishing seasons. So crossing my fingers, even praying for the guy, but he's got to show me he can stay healthy. DJ Chark's good, but then that's it. Your O-line, you literally didn't improve at all. You had a right guard battle, and you didn't improve it. You just were like, okay, we'll just keep having a battle between the same guys. 32-game right guard battle. Have you ever heard of that before? We're gonna have 2 guys playing right guard for 32 games before we make a decision at right guard. If you're honest with yourself, it is what it is. The Colts, they hit on Andrew Luck. The Titans, they didn't hit on Marcus Mariota. We just got to hope that we hit on a quarterback. Didn't work out with Bortles, didn't work out with Gabbert, but I have a good feeling about Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields.
Well, it's funny, man. Like when our kids are growing and in high school, AJ Cann is still going to be battling for that right guard spot.
The year is 2050, and somehow AJ Cann and Will Richardson are still battling for right guard.
And then our new hotshot rookie center just tore an ACL, and Tyler Shatley's still jogging out there, taking the snaps.
T-Shat 69 is one of the better guys on the Jags roster, and you can take that to the bank with you.
Hey, my favorite Gus Bradley quote is Shatley's greatest strength is his strength.
Hey, he's a cool guy. Can play every position. Like he's currently ranked on PFF as the 7th best center. So be careful how you talk about my boy T-Shat.
Hell yeah. Preston says Chris Godwin is going to be a free agent next year. Hopefully we sign him. He's good. I don't know. Do you think Chris Godwin's the type of receiver that we need to go after? I feel like we need more of a, I feel like Chris Godwin almost falls in line with more of a Laviska Shenault category. I'd rather go out there just like a speedster, a good route runner type of guy.
I mean, Chris Godwin, I think, has speed. I mean, maybe I'm confusing him with another Godwin, but honestly, if you just bring in any guy, that'll help DJ Chark. I mean, we saw at the end of 2019, like teams were like, okay, we're just going to double team DJ Chark, and then like basically took him out of games. So if you can get a receiver in there that can kind of open up for DJ Chark, like I like Keelan Cole. I'm one of Keelan Cole's biggest fans, but he's not a guy that can take pressure off of DJ Chark. He's a guy that defensive coordinators are like, okay, well, if they beat us with Keelan Cole, they deserve to beat us. He's like that guy. So, I mean, I would love to see a guy like Chris Godwin. And there's a lot of receivers that fluctuate. I mean, you look at a guy like Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders is like the 4th or 5th best wide receiver on the Saints, and he would be like number 2 here easy. So you got to make moves if you're trying to win. The Jags aren't trying to win. I'm a huge Jags fan, but maybe next year when they are trying to win, they will bring in a guy like Emmanuel Sanders. They will bring in a guy like Chris Godwin. They'll bring in a guy to really help whichever quarterback they're like sincerely backing, because even if we think of who they've paid on the offense, it's Linder, it's Norwell, and that's it. They have no money tied up anywhere else. It's Norwell and Linder. Everyone else is on a rookie deal, or they're a cheap veteran like Chris Conley. That's not what teams do when they're trying to make a run.
One thing that I don't want to do next year, we're going to have a lot of cap space. I don't want to just throw out contracts like we've done in the past, man, because we've just gone out there and just spent money. I mean, one year we went out there and brought in one offseason, we brought in like Julius Thomas, we brought in Jeremy Parnell, we brought in
Eddie House.
We brought in Sergio Brown, Devon House. Oh my God,
it was just
throwing money at people like crazy.
He was the 4th DB on Green Bay, and we brought him in to be like a number 2.
It was just horrible, man. And I want to go out. I wouldn't mind spending a lot of money on a defensive lineman, but like outside of that, I'd rather see if we can work out a DJ Chark extension. I don't know. How do you feel about Cam Robinson so far? Do you think that's a guy we need to keep around?
I mean, I have the opportunity of like being able to speak to Leon Searcy every once in a while, and I was able to talk to Leon Searcy about Cam Robinson, and he told me that like Cam Robinson tearing his ACL was like huge in his development, and that set him back like more than a year. Like most people think that injury set him back a year, but it honestly was more than that. So I think he's a guy that is going to be good, but his timeline may not match up with like ours. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be a good player, but I just think he's a couple years away from like really reaching his potential. And I don't know if we have that much time. So I'm always rooting for him, but I mean, Leon Searcy was telling us about how ACL injuries like really, really mess up tackles because of the way they have to kick like on pass blocking. And he said that's why they all wear like knee braces on every single snap, because if you mess your knees up as a lineman, you're screwed. And I just think he's really good, but he got really set back by that injury.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know what kind of contract he's really going to demand. I mean, I imagine left tackles, they're going to get contracts that are more than what they're really worth, just because it's such an important position. And, especially with a guy like Cam Robinson, where, there's guys that have pretty high grades on him. And, almost like the Sammy Watkins effect. I mean, Sammy Watkins got a huge contract after his rookie contract was up, just because he was so good in college and he was such like kind of a freak. It's almost, you almost imagine if Cam Robinson's going to kind of get that same kind of effect. But I mean, I wouldn't mind going out there and kind of re-signing Cam Robinson whilst, maybe try to get him on a 3-year deal, but still, keep drafting offensive linemen, because every year you need to draft offensive linemen, and then see if, eventually, you get a guy that can, maybe replace him or play a little bit better than him. But, I think really on the offensive line, man, I think obviously right guard AJ Cann needs to be replaced, and we got to try to draft some interior guys. But you almost wonder if Brandon Linder, as he gets older, if his time is almost, going to start getting expired.
Brandon Linder continues to grade out like one of the best players on our team, which is amazing. But he does have injuries from time to time. With Cam Robinson, I mean, I think you're spot on. I mean, some team is going to be really desperate for a left tackle and completely overpay for Cam Robinson. We did the same thing this year with Joe Schobert. We went out and paid Joe Schobert astronomically more than any team was offering him. The Browns, I was perusing their subreddit about the Joe Schobert release or unable to match, and everyone in the thread was like, great guy, but there's no way we can match that contract. And then we see him here in Jacksonville, and it's like, oh yeah, he probably wasn't worth that contract. He's good, but he's not worth $50 million. And left tackle is that to like the nth degree. And I think some team is going to be very left tackle needy. They're going to pay Cam Robinson like high profile left tackle money, and we're going to be stuck having to draft a guy. And if it's a guy like Penei Sewell from Oregon, then I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get someone like that, it's good. But man, it's just it's tough because you don't want to pay him too much money, but you also don't want him to walk in free agency, and then you have a huge hole at left tackle because that's that's the last thing that you really want going. You don't want a huge hole at tackle because who goes in? If he leaves, like who's the Richardson? Is Will Richardson really going to be our left tackle? He's going to be the day one. I mean, you gotta. I mean, as I sit here and talk about, I mean, you got to find a way to keep Cam Robinson on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just finding that number that you can live with. I mean, I genuinely think some team is going to come in and just like massively overpay for him. And because
the thing is, like, and like I was kind of saying, man, like this kind of falls in line to kind of what I was talking about. Like, I'm tired of going out and spending a lot of money on other, on people from other teams. I mean, it almost sets a good precedent of say, hey, we re-signed Cam Robinson to stay on the roster. You try to work out kind of like a DJ Chark extension, and then all of a sudden because we got to break the whole mold of we bring in high priced guys from other teams, but we don't re-sign our own guys because I mean that's quite frankly what we've been doing. I mean, who have we extended? Like Brandon Linder, Blake Bortles,
Miles Jack, Telvin Smith. Yeah, I mean
Telvin Smith's a dirty word.
We're picking the wrong people. Like, we're legit picking. Like, you could flip a coin on these and made a better decision. Like, Telvin was the worst person to extend. Miles Jack, he's grading out pretty well. I mean, Miles Jack's grading out as like one of the best PFF players like in the league. Like, crazy. I don't know how, but yeah, I mean, you got to extend early. Imagine if they would have extended Jalen Ramsey and Yannick Ngakoue a year before their contract was up. I mean, we would have one of the best defenses in the league, hands down, because you would have the chance to get CJ Henderson and Jalen Ramsey. Can you imagine that? I mean, maybe you don't draft him there, but still, it's fun to think.
Yeah. And Graven says, this is a good stream, fellas. Thanks so much, man. Nate says, number 2 corner is a necessity. Flowers from the Hawks. He's from Seattle. Yeah, I mean, God, Trey Hearn has been a huge disappointment this year, man. And that's, I mean, we can go along the list of, I mean, we can sit here and power rank our biggest needs. And, number 2 corner might not even be in the top 5, unfortunately.
But let me say this, though. Let me say this. And like, I would have been on board with that like a day ago. But after watching last night's game, Baltimore had one of the best defenses going into the game. Baltimore was like number 1 in scoring defense, gives up one of the least amount of points, and they had no answer for Kansas City's ability to spread the field with all their speed at wide receiver. The only answer for that is to match that in defensive backs. So, yeah, it's unheard of to have 2 really good corners, but at the same time, I mean, the Chiefs went out there and destroyed the Ravens because they had Harmon running on drag routes, and they had Tyreek Hill, running deep post routes, and Sammy Watkins. And it's like, eventually you have to be able to match those guys up man to man, or you're just going to get destroyed by a guy like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an offensive league, and I'm not complaining. I love offense. I like scoring. I like, unfortunately, it's an offensive league, but we don't think we have of course, Gardner Minshew. I mean, he's done some good things, but at the end of the day, man, like, when I'm out there looking, I want a Patrick Mahomes. I want a Russell Wilson. I see like Russell Wilson, like throwing these deep balls to DK Metcalf, and it's just got such great velocity and hits them just right in stride. But it seems like, Minshew's deep balls just kind of like, they kind of hang out in the air a little bit, and it's almost like, they have to kind of go up there and grab it as a 50-50 ball. I mean, he's going to be, he's an accurate guy, and he can fit the ball in some windows. But I mean, the whole arm strength thing it's something that you need.
You really have. I mean, like we said. I mean, this is how we started this show. Anyways, for me, anyways, you have to have an elite quarterback to be a contender. And if the Jags fans want to be a contender, you have to have an elite quarterback. I mean, Bortles flashed at times. You have to have a guy that's consistent. And we see over and over again the best teams have consistent elite quarterbacks, whether it's Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, if you go back a couple years. You can flash with a subpar quarterback with a good defense and some supporting casts, but to sustain winning, you have to have an elite quarterback. So we saw the Colts do it when they tanked for Andrew Luck. It sucks. It sucks. And this is probably the most boring stream because people are like, UCF, why are you bringing on this guy that keeps talking about tanking? But I'm a firm believer if you can get a guy like Trevor Lawrence in here, like that could change the entire franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. I mean, usually, man, when we were winning, it's having a lot of people in here, man, 61 people. It goes, I mean, I don't blame them, man. Like, I don't watch as much Jag coverage when we're bad just because, I think it's a little bit better because I think I'd rather my own people talk about the Jaguars not being very good than having to hear Colin Cowherd and like Chris Sims kind of talk about it. But I mean, it's just a state that the Jaguars are in. And, I have some, like Jacob the Kid says 19 of 20 though, for Gardner Minshew. I mean, Gardner Minshew, I mean, he's going to have some, I mean, like I was saying earlier, he's Fitzpatrick, man. He's going to be in the NFL for a long time. He's going to show you some really good things. But the thing is, man, like, rosters turn over. Rosters are going to turn over. And what you need good head coaching, a consistent head coach, and you need a consistently good quarterback that's able to own the offense, that's able to elevate the team. And I mean, you see Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has no defense. He's putting up all these points every single game, but he's putting up all these points. You know what I mean? He's able to elevate this team, and the team is just really good right now. Then we see what Gardner Minshew kind of does with a subpar team. And the thing about Gardner Minshew is he is showing the same mistakes that he had last year. I mean, like him in the pocket looks like a Roomba stuck under a dining room chair. Like it's like he just kind of pops around, like he's feeling pressure that's coming out of nowhere, and he's leaving the pocket. And I don't know, man. He's worrying me. Obviously, he still has 13 more games to prove us wrong, and give him every single snap, let him play every single game. But it's just the pocket presence, the arm strength that it just worries me.
I'm going to quote you on Twitter and say, at UCF Jaguar calls Gardner Minshew equal to a Roomba. And
it's what it reminds me of, man. Like you see him like in a pocket, like it's like
that's a beautiful metaphor. I love it. I just wasn't expecting it, so I appreciate it. No, that's good. I mean, I love Minshew. I mean, he's one of my. I loved Bortles, and I love Minshew more. I should tell people how much I love Minshew. But at the end of the day, like he's going to be in the NFL a long time. I think you're spot on with that. He's going to be in the NFL as long as he can move and throw the ball, because and he'll probably be a coach, like you said. Got everything. He's got everything, and he's really, really good. But he's one of those guys that needs to have a good cast around him to make a serious run. I mean, it's 28-7 at the end of the third quarter, and I know people in our comments and on our show last night were like, "It's one game, like chill, like." Jags look good every game besides last week. Like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I get that, but the Dolphins are a well-coached team. But I think after next week, when Joe Burrow just carves us up, it may be a shootout. It may be 45-40. But still, like, you have – that's not what winning teams do. You have to be able to beat the Bengals. You have to be able to beat the Dolphins. And 8-8 isn't going to get you a draft pick that's going to really swing the needle next year, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I have we're getting a lot of hate in the comments section, and look like, I mean, like Gardner Minshew might win us the Super Bowl in 2017, but I don't want a quarterback that's just good enough. I don't want a quarterback that, if you scheme everything right, he's going to win you games. Like, I want elite quarterback. I mean, you can't sit here and say that Gardner Minshew will ever be a Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you can't sit here and say he's ever going to be a Russell Wilson or anything. Like he's got, he's got potential. I mean, he's going to be around the league for a long time, and he can win games as a starting quarterback. But man, like I said, man, when the roster turns over, you need a quarterback that can help you through the down times. And these other guys are, Russell Wilson. I keep pulling up Russell Wilson, but he's one guy that's been through it a lot. Even Tom Brady has been through it. Just like Ben Roethlisberger. When these rosters turn over, when they've had like some bad offensive lines, like they've been able to kind of prevail. And I don't want a quarterback that is just good enough, because who's just good enough? Andy Dalton. He was just good enough. He was leading his team into the playoffs every year with Jay Gruden when the roster was good, but he couldn't win a playoff game. And then when the roster turned over and got bad, the team sucked. You know what I mean? He was like 5-11, 6-10, all that stuff. And I want Gardner Minshew. I would like nothing more. It would be so good for the Jaguars if he could be the guy, because right now he's on a rookie contract. You can make a run with something like that. And, we don't have to go out there and spend, a first round pick or even additional draft capital to try to move up. But, and I know a lot of people say, oh, we can't give Gardner Minshew 2 years if we gave Blake Bortles 5 years. Look, we made a wrong decision by giving Blake Bortles that much time. We should not make the same decision and just hang around and hope that a guy is going to be it, man. Like you gotta make sure the quarterback position is right. I like Minshew, and obviously he has 13 games to make me eat my words. And I know he did good the first couple of games, but and I'm like also in the third game he has one bad game, and I'm turning it around. But like, in the first 3 games he's been leaving the pocket early. He looks nervous in the pocket. He looks unsure of what he's doing, and he's not mobile enough to be able to kind of like run out of it. And just the fact that when he throws these deep balls, he doesn't like have any velocity. I think he's connected on 1 deep ball this year, and it's just I'm a big Minshew fan, but I want an elite quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of on the same page there. It's just the people. It's so hard not to want to will Gardner Minshew to like being elite, and I struggled with that last year. I mean, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, 26th out of 35 PFF grade quarterback. The dude's is what he is. I mean, he's electric. He has that it factor that can lead a team to a fourth quarter comeback. And that's really exciting to watch, or he maybe keeps your team around to the fourth quarter. But he's not a guy that's just going to like dominate. And there's guys out there that dominate. So don't aim low. Don't aim in the middle. Aim for a guy that can dominate. Patrick Mahomes has never struggled, even as a young kid. He's never thrown an think about this for a second. Patrick Mahomes has never thrown an interception in the month of September in his entire career. That's the most unbelievable thing I've ever heard in my entire life. He has never thrown an interception, never makes a bad pass. Lamar Jackson had a bad game last week, but he's a guy, I mean, he won the MVP last year. Deshaun Watson, the dude makes something out of nothing every single year with no offensive line. Like, there's guys out there that are elite and that can elevate the play of the people around them, which is better than someone that has to be elevated by the people around them. And Minshew might be one of those guys that has to be elevated by the people around him. That's as sad as that is, and as much hate we get in the chat. There's guys out there that are elite and that can really do it.
And then there's people kind of saying, oh, it's the, there's a lot of people making all kinds of things. Oh, it's the coaching, it's the offensive line, it's like the receivers. Like, I don't, one thing I did with Blake Bortles, I made way too many excuses for him. You know what I mean? Like Brady, like what, besides Randy Moss, like what great receivers has he had? What great running backs has he had? I mean, I can, and right now, like Jay Gruden is a damn good offensive coordinator. You know what I mean? I mean, he's been able to scheme some things open, and quite frankly, in the Dolphins game, Minshew missed a lot of guys. I mean, there were guys running open that he just like missed. And, like when you look at like Lamar Jackson hangs in the pocket and makes throws, like, and when he has easily the ability to go out of the pocket and make plays. But, Gardner Minshew leaves the pocket early, he feels phantom pressure and he leaves. You know what I mean? Like, and I know Predator says we're overreacting from Thursday, but this is something that's, maybe we are overreacting, but it's something that we were showing from last year, like Minshew was doing. We said he needs to fix himself in the pocket, fix his fumbling issue, And it's just, I don't know. Thursday, he hasn't shown much improvement in that aspect. And if you want to be, an elite quarterback, I mean, you got to hang in a pocket, and you've got to see the field well. And even the game losing interception against the Titans, I know we all revert to Clowney being offsides, but he didn't really make that much of an impact on that play. But I mean, Gardner Minshew was just staring down his guy. He like kind of double clutched, and then it was just an easy tip ball at the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't know, like hopefully, like, I feel like I'm just being so hard on Gardner Minshew right now. But I mean, the thing is, right now the Jaguars are in rebuilding mode, and the main thing that we have to do, we have to get our franchise quarterback, and that's just what we had to do.
Yeah, and I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the momentum. And again, I'm not a negative guy. Like, I'm usually the positive guy. It's easy to get caught up in the momentum, but we're like, honestly, like one pass interference call away in week 1 that extended our drive on 3rd and long from being 0-3. And if we're 0-3 right now, like, you guys are viewing this team a lot different. And I know Minshew can put up numbers, and I know the offense can put up numbers if Chark's playing and Jay Gruden is scheming up right and Ben McAdoo is giving good advice. Like, yeah, they can put up points, but we're a couple of calls away from being 0-3, which is more realistic than anything else. So I have a lot of hope for this team. They will be good. 2022, they will 100% be good. 2021, they could be. Like, I'm 50-50 on 2021, but we're 2 years away. We're 2 years away. And when all of the people are in the chat and when all the fans are back on the bandwagon, they're going to be here watching us because we've been here the whole time.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what it's all about, man. And, I know, I'll probably end this soon. Alexander says, all the Trevor talk, but will we really be first overall pick? If not, then what team would trade Trevor away? Basically, honestly, like, if you're not the number 1 overall pick, you're not going to get Trevor Lawrence. I mean, like, if you're number 1 overall pick, like, you can't give up Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you could trade 5 first-round picks away. I mean, I remember Joe Burrow, teams were just calling and offering picks like crazy, but they stayed pat. You can listen to calls, but you're not going to do anything if there's a guy right there that you can get, and and you can get him. You know what I mean?
I would have not said this a couple weeks ago, but I could see this team finishing 1-15. I hate to say it, but I could see this team. I mean, we saw what happened when Chark's injured. If one more guy gets hurt, if Minshew takes the wrong step, if James Robinson takes a wrong step, we're one guy away, because we have no depth, away from probably being a 1-15 team.
And honestly, like, with me, like, I don't think the record's going to be that great, but if we go 1-15, I don't think it's going to be because of Minshew. I mean, Minshew is not the biggest issue with the team right now.
Yeah.
The issue with the team right now is that we can't generate a pass rush. It's that, our back 5 isn't covering very well. It's that Todd Wash is not scheming a defense very good. He doesn't know how to scheme any kind of blitzes. And then if you want to move to the offensive side of the ball, maybe we don't have enough versatility at like wide receiver, and then maybe we kind of get to Minshew, but Minshew, he's not the biggest problem, with the team right now. But until you get a franchise quarterback, it's gonna still be kind of around. But Jacob the Kid, who kind of mentions that the O-line, that we have a bad O-line. The O-line hasn't been that bad this year.
No, I mean, they've been a lot better than they were last year. And me and you have said over and over again, Gardner Minshew will probably have a very long career in the NFL. Like, Gardner Minshew is not the issue at all. Like, he is not the problem. It's everything else around them. And the front office and the coaching staff has tricked Jaguar fans into thinking they've done everything they can to help Minshew, when in reality, they've left Minshew out to dry. And it's sad for Minshew, and I hope Minshew goes somewhere else and has a great career. But the Jaguars have set him up for failure, and that's why we may be 1-15. Not because of Minshew, but because the front office pays 5 people on their entire roster over $6 million a year, which is by far the lowest of any team in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jaguars will ultimately end up either like 3-13 or 4-12. I don't think we lose the rest of the games. I think we find a way to kind of win some, just because we've seen our offense, first 2 weeks put up a lot of points, and I think we're gonna win some shootouts this year. But just as long as we don't have a pass rush, man, and these quarterbacks are able to kind of sit back there and tear apart our zone defense, just kind of fit it into the soft spots of the zone for these like 7-8 yard gains every time. It's just going to continue to hurt us.
Yeah, it's like we can't seem to get any positive plays on defense. It's like every single play, the offense that we're defending is getting like 5 to 7 yards every single play. And it's just like, okay. And then we finally get them to a third down. Like we had last week, we had the Dolphins like in 5 third and medium situations in the first half, and they converted 4 of them. So it's not a matter of is our quarterback good enough or is whatever. It's just that our defense can't stop anybody.
Yeah. Not ultimately yet, but all right, guys, we're probably going to end it right here, man. We've been live for an hour and 20 minutes. I've taken up too much of Jason's time tonight, but
bro, that's nothing, bro. So that's our usual go time for our shows.
Yeah, man. But I plugged all of Jason's content down below, man. You can subscribe to him on YouTube. He does all kinds of weekly shows, and follow him on Twitter. He's got some juicy takes. But anything you got coming up on the channel sometime soon?
No, if I could ask anything, it'd be from your fans to get UCF to get me on more often, man. This is like the most fun I've had in weeks talking about the Jags. So this could be a regular thing. That would be the highlight of my season.
Yeah, man. I get comments on when I'm gonna have you on next all the time. I'm like, I'll have him on. But yeah, man, we definitely, especially during the season when there's a lot to talk about, man. I feel like this stream was kind of almost felt like a funeral, because like I feel like it's us two, like trying to tell the chat that we're not all in on Minshew. And hey, I hope we're wrong, man. I hope we pull this up in 3 years, and as Minshew's holding up the Lombardi trophy in there, screen recording this.
I would love that, dude. I'd be the first person. I'd self-report right away that we were wrong.
Yeah, there's nothing I would love more. But hey, man, we're not gonna hide our take. We're not gonna try to give you guys false, try to pump sunshine into you. We're gonna tell you how it is, man, and that's the honesty of it. And we're not gonna tell you guys stuff to get likes, to get your guys' hopes up. We're gonna give you guys our real honest opinions, and that's just how it's gonna be.
Yeah, man. Well, I had a great time, dude. I appreciate it. I shout out to your chat for being super active. Shout out to your whole channel. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. But all right, guys, enjoyed being out here, man. I'll come out with a preview video in the next couple of days. You guys can get that one day early if you're a member of the channel. But all right, guys, good luck. Have fun this week. Do good at work. Make sure you get that money, and see you guys later.